So let's do a quick recap on software development lifecycle again. So there is some customer, can be actual customers like myself or you guys. And we can, on the market, let's say Apple Store, we can write a 1-star review for an application saying like it's buggy and it doesn't do like this and that, or it hangs or whatever. And then there's gonna be like 20 more people who will say the same. Rating will go down. Product owners will take a look, identify the issue, and will try to address it immediately, because if we give it a bad rating, it goes away. So the search engine will start rating this application that way, so it's not on the first page but on the second page and somewhere else, and that's why not many users will start downloading it. On the other hand, we have multiple teams within the company. For example, marketing team can ask to add some feature, update some images sometimes, or like change the flow a little bit, and so on. Different teams can request different features. So product owner will take care of that. The person will create a story, basically translate all the desired features into a little bit more technical kind of shape, but it's still kind of from user's perspective usually. And then developer will read it and try to figure out how to actually implement that, and we will test it and we will ship back to customer, but usually product owner checks, like accepts it first, but customer is who gets the deliverables, right? So customers order, like in the restaurants. It's not your server who eats the food, it's the actual customer who ordered it, right? So if it's wrong dish, or it's too salty, you will start complaining about that, right? So the same thing here. Okay, now this is kind of end-to-end workflow with all those terms. So once we get a story, once developers get story, they work on the story locally on their computer, and they can actually spin up that web application locally or mobile application locally, right on their computer using simulators or emulators or in the browser. Nobody else can see it because it's work in progress. And once they figure things out and do the development, they do some smoke testing usually and a little bit of feature testing, but it's usually not that deep. They usually just cover happy path and very, very light testing, just because they always busy, they don't have time, they have 20 more stories to work on, so they try to push it as quick as possible to us. So once they do so, they have a special dev environment, which is their sandbox. So they will need to deploy their application to dev environment. They will do some testing and they will deploy it next to QA environment. And how do you know it's dev or QA? Usually URL is different. So in QA, why do we need QA environment? Because that's our sandbox. So we don't mess up with our environments. Developers, development environment usually is broken, always broken. So there is nothing for us to work on. But QA environment, that's usually, it's more stable. Because we are not changing QA environment, right? Developers push the code to QA and that's it. It stays there unless we ask to do something with it. And that's where we do the most of the testing. So first of all, we do smoke just to make sure we can really start on testing. We don't waste any time. So it's a short set of, small set of test cases with the purpose of checking that environment and this build with this new feature is really testable and it's worth spending our time on it. And we usually do proper feature testing, which we will start doing in a couple of minutes. And then if we see it's very bad, something critical that we found or whatever, we push it back to dev. They will fix it, they will deploy it to dev environment again, and they will deploy to QA environment again so we can retest it. On the other hand, if it's good to go, there is no major issues or maybe no issues at all, we will ask our team to push it to stage. Sometimes QAs do it themselves, sometimes they don't. And stage environment where actual user acceptance testing happens. And this is, as it states, acceptance, right? So customer, whoever it was, they will go there and check like, okay, is this button red color now? It used to be green and we ask it to be red, right? Is it red or it's like orange? Or there is no such button at all. So usually stage environment or staging environment, it's pretty clean because QAs took care of that already, right? We tested it and we kind of confirmed that it's good. So your stage is usually stable and nice and everything works fine. And in fact, it's usually kind of a mirror of production. So it has the same hardware, the same speed, like performance wise, and it's nice and clean. It doesn't mean it doesn't have any defects because we never did any regression yet. So yes, we tested particular story, which is if you take a look at our mind map, one story, if it's like one page, it's not usually it's not the whole entire page, it's usually a part of page. So yes, we did test that and it's all good, but we never checked the whole entire page. We never checked the rest of the pages at all, right? So that's why we perform regression testing in stage environment with this 190 point inspection, or as you could see, could be like 500 or 1,000 point inspection, right? For us, we don't really have, for this application, we don't have like QA or stage. It's kind of, the one that we have is called test. And I would say it's kind of both QA and stage, whatever you name it. Developers do have their own environment. We just don't have access to it. We don't care. And then we have production. So when we add feature by feature, one by one, for maybe for 2 weeks in a row, we add new features. Now, because we tested every single feature, now we need to test the whole thing because let's say we added 20 more features. So this stage now has 20 more features than the production environment that actual customers use, because the production environment was the one before, like 2 weeks back, right? 2 weeks old. So now in this stage, again, we run smoke just to make sure it's testable. There is a point of running regression, and then we run the whole regression against stage. And yes, it's time consuming. And it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time, of course, because of that. But that's really the only way for us to know if the quality of the application is good enough or not. Sometimes it happens that it's not, because while testing those features, we never tested some other area that got affected by these changes. That's why it's very important to run regression. And this is really a report for us that says like, okay, out of this 500 test cases, 490 passed and 10 failed. And out of those 10, let's say there are like 8 very low priority defects and 2 low priority defects, or mid priority, like, right? So, but no high priority. In that case, we will show that report to management and say like, or to our team, and we will say like, okay, since there is no major issues over there, and this is a list of issues that we found, we don't think it's critical to kind of not to release to prod, because you see release, then it's a process when we turn the stage code, that application that runs in stage before, nobody sees that except for us and the teams. We kind of switch, we replace current production with that application that is in stage right now. So now it becomes available for all our users. And if it's web applications, most of the times you will not even notice the difference, because it really looks exactly the same. Maybe somewhere something got changed, but again, not always it's noticeable even. The same for mobile applications. Even if you see like this spinner is on top of some application icon, you see it's being updated. If you open it, you may notice that there is no visible change. Maybe there is something got changed somewhere, but you need to look and try to figure this out. Sometimes though, you open it and it's completely different application, or you open it and it asks you to log in, because we kind of, as a human beings, we are kind of lazy, right? So we don't really want to log in every time with our password and email. So we save it, we use like Face ID or fingerprints, whatever, to kind of automatically log us in. And you may notice that it's like you actually logged off for some reason. And it can happen that with the new update, with newer version of the application, you got logged out. And in production, once we release, we usually do very like the minimum of testing. Sanity, which is like when we kind of very quickly check those features that they got to production. We usually don't test like them all completely, but we just make sure they got it, they made it to production. In smoke, just to make sure, again, nothing, all major functionality works, because while releasing, sometimes there could be some issue can occur. And I've seen that some production can be broken sometimes. So just run smoke to make sure it's not broken.